Hey everybody, it's Armin. Today we're out here at the shop with our second J-Swap project that we've had here in the shop. This one I won't be doing from ground zero like I did the last one. This one the customer has already installed the motor, the transmission, and a couple of the hard parts. But they fast us the car in order to do the wiring portion. So we have the motor already installed using a Mini-Tech kit. The coolant has been rerouted using an OZ kit. We are not keeping power steering either. So what we're going to be doing is going over all of the stuff that they have done, verifying what has been done so we know exactly just how much we need to do. But for certain I need to do all the wiring. So what I have done is I've already gone through and started doing a bunch of the wiring work. Since this is different from the last one I did, and I learned a lot from doing the last one, I went ahead and created a plan for all the wiring, and I started by pre-wiring a lot of stuff. And we're gonna go over all that stuff. This is my checklist for the general stuff of the car. And then I actually have an entire checklist on the second page here, which is just electrical. What I did is I went through and I figured out all the wires, all the wire colors, all the wire locations and everything, as well as pins as appropriate, and I put them all on a list so that way we know everything that needs to be done. Then I went ahead and started setting up the wiring themselves for every one of the circuits. Let's go through them. So over here we'll start with my fuse brick. If you saw my last video, I used one of these, and I use them on a couple of my more demanding projects because it's nice to have a fuse block instead of a bunch of little inline fuses. This will be located here in the trunk. What I've done is, so installation is easy, I went ahead and put a generous amount of wiring, and I have labeled everything already. We have a fuel pump relay, 5 amp, that's going to go to the fuel pump relay for the signal side, that's why it's 5 amp. Fuel pump power, which is the 20 amp circuit that gives power to the relay for the actual power circuit. The TAC converter requires a 5 amp, that will go to the TAC converter. The ECU requires a 7.5 amp constant power, that's this guy. And then the ECU power, which will be a key on power, that is the 15 amp, and that will go to the ECU relay. So I've already given myself, again, generous lengths, and I've labeled these. This is battery ground, so this will be connected into this little guy. I'm going to be replacing out the battery terminals with these. These are awesome. I use these on a lot of projects as well because you can just add in 4 gauge, 2 gauge, or 0 gauge, and then you can also add in these little 8 gauges. So we'll be adding this guy into this, and then we'll do the same on this side with this guy. That makes the wiring nice and clean. Then this guy will be run over to the ECU constant power, and then we'll, as you see, I labeled that, so it's just easy. We run it through the car. Once we have the length, we cut it to length and we assemble that. Then we move over to the ECU relay. This one will be our key on power. So that goes to our 12 volt ignition signal. That'll be from under the dash with the key. This one goes back to the fuse box. Let's see, this one goes to the Honda ECU, the ignition power. This gives the ECU power. And then the red one goes back to our fuse box to give it the power. Oh, I already said that one. And then this one's just a local ground. Then on the fuel pump circuit, what we'll be doing is we'll be taking the Miata circuit out effectively. We're going to be wiring the green wire to the fuel pump itself because we are putting in a bigger fuel pump. We take the red one and run that from the fuse box, as it says. The white one also runs from the fuse box, and then the black one will be our trigger on from the Honda ECU. Then we have our TAC adapt here, and you guys probably already know how these go. Just have fuse box power, so from the fuse box, the Honda TAC, the Miata TAC, and then a local ground as well. This guy, inside you have to switch dip switches 2 and 7. I've already done that and reassembled this as it says in the instructions. For a 6-cylinder, 4-cylinder, you do dip switches 2 and 7. So that being said, we're going to go ahead and start running over everything on this car, and we'll see it through to getting it running. Today I've gone and turned Bailey loose on working on this thing. So he started in, removed the alternator, cleared the space right here. We now have a nice little gap there. He went through and checked all of the work the customer has done, or at least tried to check what we could thus far. Pulled the spark plugs, checked the gap, tightened up a couple of loose bolts we found here or there, such as that guy still needs to be tightened. We'll pressure test we already pressure tested the coolant system because the customer said it was done. We didn't see any leaks at the moment. Currently, we have removed the top, we're removing the back decking area. Customer's already fabbed up or put together this sort of return system using the evap line. So the evap line obviously is no longer connected. We'll test that later after we figure out the rest of this stuff. So, got the wiring going on in the trunk here. He's got the terminals over here. He's run these 2 wires over. And we're working on getting the back deck apart so we can run wires from the rear to the front as well as wire up the fuel pump. Taking out a bunch of the interior here so we can figure out how we're going to mount this ECU. Notice that the Honda ECU and the Miata ECU are similar in size, but we're going to go ahead and go with one of the universal aftermarket ECU mounting brackets from Goodwin Racing so we can try and get this guy mounted up nicely under there. Customer already routed the wires up under here, so we're going to make it work over here. And as you see, we got this back deck area out so we can start routing the wires through here. As you see, this wire's already coming through. This will be the one that is our constant power to the ECU for 7.5 amp fuse circuit. And then, that's all for now. So if I didn't mention it, we did remove the cruise control. Spoke with the customer that it's probably a good idea to get those manifolds out and ceramic coated now rather than later. Probably a good idea. But because he did the coolant reroute how he did, there is room for us to make small heat shields and use the existing bolt holes on them to make a shield. So we're gonna end up doing that. And then just today we got in from Goodwin Racing, we got in the Singular Motorsports ECU mount bracket. So we'll fit up the Honda ECU on here and mount it up under the dash. Make some more progress on this thing today. Got a bunch more wires hooked up here. Obviously we have the power circuit for the fuel pump. We have the relay circuit. Relay's mounted up here. And then we run around here. Power circuit has already been extended over to the fuel pump. And we're working our way on the gauge stuff as well as mounting the ECU. So we got the tack signal wired in, got the tack unit here. Obviously the power wire ran back to the trunk. And next we're going to take care of tying these into the Honda tack and then getting a local ground. So we made some good progress over the last 2 days. A bunch of these wires have actually been run up to the front. Currently it looks like spaghetti, but obviously we wait until the end in order to loom it all up. Some of the looming has already been done. It's held together with zip ties for the time being, just in case we need to make some changes. Runs all the way over here. Minitech has sent us the connector. It's not here yet, but it's on the way. So if we get up under here, made a modification to the Honda ECU. As you notice, it was really close to touching that bracket. Well, it was actually touching before we cut the end of it off. And then we mounted it. We just made some new holes in this thing and used some longer screws through the casing to mount the Honda ECU there. The tack adapt is hidden up under here, as well as the, yeah, you see, there we go, the ECU relay is also up there. And then we'll be cleaning all of this wiring up as well. We found out that their fuel tank was empty. We had an issue with the wiring up under the dash. Some of the wires are different colors than they're expected to be. So it ended up that the fuel pump was left on and we didn't hear it and it melted itself. I'll show you a picture of that. Oh, actually I have it right here. Check it out. So the fuel pump melted itself because it was inadvertently left on. We'll take care of that. So we got the customer a brand new Deechworks. There we go, Deechworks 200. Make them whole. Run all those wires through here. Went ahead and got a Goodwin Racing bracket. It's from Singular Motorsports, but it's this guy up here. We didn't have to make many modifications in order to make that thing fit, other than we did have to cut a corner off of the ECU for fitment around the brake pedal bracket. Minitech, let's see, gave us the instructions for this. It didn't come from the customer, so we had to reach out and get that. So we got all of those in there as per wired, as per labeled. In here, took care of getting those couple of wires connected. Pop over under the hood. This connector, for some reason, came like this. It's 3 wires, but only 2 of them make their way to this connector, which I don't know what connector this is supposed to be. So we got a correct connector from Ballinger Motorsports. It's for the map sensor. We had to do a little bit of wiring running here. Got those wires all taken care of. I had written in the instructions to tie 2 of the wires together for the fan relays, since the Honda ECU will turn on 1 relay, but obviously if you split the wire and run to both relays, it'll turn them both on. So we have 1 going to here and 1 going over there. You can see the little blue wire over there. And that guy turns on both fans with a single command of the ECU. Next we have the AC relay, which is here, this guy. And let's see what else. We sent off the manifolds to get ceramic coated, so that way that will generate less engine bay heat and the adjacency to all the components. You'll notice that one of these is mildly different. That's this guy. It's been milled down by Minitech. This is the one that goes on, I forget which side, but it's obvious when we look over at the Y pipe. The Y pipe has one that has a bolt on it, I believe. We'll figure that out. We installed the exhaust. It looks really nice. It's really stealth in there because it's just black ceramic coating, nice and hidden down there. We got in our map sensor connector. The problem has been that the wiring over here doesn't have a 5-volt or anything. We're currently having map signal problems, trying to figure that out. And then the IAT for some reason is stuck at really low temperature, if I remember correctly. There is a signal problem there too, so we're gonna have to diagnose those. Let's see, the exhaust looks really nice under there. We don't have it hooked up to the stock exhaust over there. We'll have to see what the customer wants to do, if they want us to do that. Meanwhile, we have fired it up, and it sounds okay. It doesn't idle the best. It jumps up and down because, again, the IAT and the map don't work. Well, we've gotten a lot of stuff done on this J-swap, but unfortunately the customer's budget has run out. We've come to a point where we need to do a lot of wiring diagnostics. Like we said, there may be some problems with some of the wiring from Minitech or from the customer's installation. So we're stopping work, but as you see, we got it running. We're pretty happy with all the work we did. And I mean, hopefully the customer gets everything running, to their liking and such. Either way, if there's anything else I can do to help any of you guys out, let me know. If you'd like our shop to do a J-swap for you, feel free to reach out. Thanks for watching.